What's going on, everybody? Mortym here. This time I'm bringing you all of the ways out of Fort Joy in Divinity 2 Original Sin, specifically the Definitive Edition, but this does apply to Classic as well. So a couple of qualifiers right off the bat. Obviously there are some very tiny spoilers, but this is very early in the game, so it would be odd if that bothered to play through at all. But nonetheless, there you go. Now that said, I'm specifically talking about Fort Joy, not the island you're on, because all of that coalesces into one way off of the island, but specifically the fort you get thrown into. Now, jumping directly into it from here. And also, just to give a little clarification, these are simply the methods you can use to leave, the paths, if you will. How your character chooses to walk those paths is entirely up to you. This is just specifically the paths out of Fort Joy. So, right off the bat, obviously, the number one is just fighting your way out the front door. You'll come up to a gate with all these magisters, and you can just fight all of them. It's very possible to do that. It is difficult, and if you're going to do that, I recommend doing all of the side quests in the actual little prison area here, and getting as much experience as you can. But while it is a little difficult, especially if you're new to the game, it is not impossible to do this. Obviously, with that direct route out of the way, we're going to jump into the rest. So, if we talk to a man called Gawain, and he's pretty hard to miss as he runs up to you, screaming about how he has a way out of the prison, he'll send us to go kill some crocodiles. Now, these are a little bit of a tougher fight. I'd recommend being level 2 or 3 at this point. Having some help helps, so you can just pull some of the NPCs to help you out with this particular fight if you need to. But what we're after here is the Gloves of Teleportation on the larger Crocolus, the one with magic armor specifically. Now, once we get those Gloves of Teleportation, we can bring them back to Gawain, who tells us to meet him at a ledge outside of the prison. So when we go over there to meet him, he has us teleport each other across this little ravine here, as you can see. Now, once he gets to the other side, he actually winds up betraying us, and we can't do anything at that point, except break a stump and get dumped down. And we find ourselves in a proper prison, an actual jail cell. And we're going to come back to this in just a second. Going back to above ground here, this prison is actually directly below all the stuff in the overworld part of Fort Joy here. We have another option. If you come over to this ledge above the tent, next to the gate where you could fight your way out of, you can actually see a ladder that goes up to a ledge, and there's some door into the actual fort itself. If you have the Gloves of Teleportation, it's possible to get your character to teleport someone up to this ledge and then have them knock down the ladder. And then you can take the sneak out of Fort Joy option that I'm going to show you a bit later. There's a direct route as far as sneaking goes that's a little easier than the rest, but there's actually like 3 or 4 ways to sneak through the castle and actually get out of Fort Joy here. Looking at some of the other options before we get to there, the first thing you see is an argument between some thugs and an elf woman and a human. Now if you choose to help them, the elf brings you to a cave. Now that said, this isn't stopping you from entering this cave. Even if you don't help the elf, you can just walk over to the cave. The only plus side of this is they show you directly where this cave is if you choose to do this. Now inside this cave, they'll introduce you to Sahela, and she'll essentially say that she knows a way off the island out of Fort Joy rather, if you help her friend Amiro. So if you go over to where she tells you Amiro is, because she will actually tell you, you can go talk to Amiro, which immediately prompts a conversation with Griff, the person keeping Amiro locked up. Now, regardless of the conversation options you choose here, essentially what you learn is that Amiro is being accused of stealing something that he didn't actually steal. So if you offer to track down the item or just break Amiro out, which immediately sets Griff off and fight everybody, you can go track down the thief. Now, when you find the thief, which, I mean, if you just do some searching around, you're looking for oranges, and essentially you smell citrus around this guy, and you start questioning him. But, again, small spoiler here, it's Slingtail over here on this beach. Now, when you walk up to him, if you have Sabile in your party, she's going to want to talk to him, and she will kill him outright. This will not affect you bringing the oranges back to Griff in any way. However, it does kill Slingtail, which is a problem if you're trying to do the Red Prince's starter quest, because he needs to talk to Slingtail. Now that's about the only real conflict here you're going to find. Now, once we have the citrus, we can bring that back to Griff, and from here, if Slingtail isn't dead from Sabile, Griff is going to ask who the killer was. Now, we can either turn over Slingtail, and at that point, Griff will actually send a couple people to go kill him, or we have the option to refuse to tell Griff who this was, and at that point, Griff attacks you again. Now, regardless of how this plays out, if you freed Amiro, you can go back to Sahela, and then she will mark a cave on your map where you can sneak into the jails that we were in earlier. So again, that's just a cave that roundabout way brings you to the jail under Fort Joy again. The actual proper jail, not the prison island that you're on. We have a couple other options before we get into the jail one more time. Well, two more times actually. If we go back to the cave where Sahela is, if we talk to these little kids, if you pick a specific dialogue option, they'll mention talking to some older man. Now, if you follow them, they will unlock a hidden passage down to a small cave. Now, if you know where this is and you have the perception, you can just walk over there and look for it. You don't actually have to talk to the kids once you know where it is. You can just stumble upon it, but the first time you're playing it, you'll likely talk to these children and then find it that way, unless you're watching this video, obviously. Now, when you come down here, you'll find a skeleton speared to a wall. This man's name is Withermore, and you found out that the original inhabitant of the island, Brachus Rex, who was a tyrant king, essentially speared Withermore to this wall and cursed him so that he wouldn't die, so he's been tortured for eternity, basically. Now, what Withermore asks you to do is, in exchange for some information about how to get off this island, well, specifically out of Fort Joy, I should say, he wants you to destroy his soul jar so he can finally pass on, because he's been alive a very long time and essentially been tortured. Now, first things first, in order to do this, you actually have to have a character with a strength stat to actually pull the spear out of Withermore, which isn't difficult. If you have Ifan or the Red Prince, they'll usually be able to do it if you, in particular, don't have high enough strength. But, long story short, pull the spear out, get this quest, and he'll actually give you a little bit of information here, and then he'll tell you, please, I'll give you this way out if you destroy my soul jar. And what he tells you is that there's a button under the main way shrine in the prison area that will actually lead you down into the jail cells. So, our only other option there is one that I don't think actually works as the developer intended. So there is a small side quest here called the Murderous Geist, where you can go find a Geist, I guess, on one of these beaches, and the guy's insane. They've done something to his mind, and he's very aggressive and very hostile. So what you do is you walk up, he'll talk about a Yarrow Flower. If you go to the actual main beach part where you got initially knocked onto the island at, you can ult your way into some Yarrow Flowers. Now, if you find one of these Yarrow Flowers, you can give them to the Geist, and that makes him non-hostile, and then you can bring his ring that he'll give you back to his daughter, which is along a wall here. And then she'll thank you, and she'll show you a way off the island. Now, the problem with this is she says that she's going to give you a key and then show you where it goes to. The problem with that is she gives you the key, but she never actually shows you where the door for this key is. So again, I don't think that's actually working as intended. It seems like a small bug of sorts, but that said, at this point, we've had plenty of options to get out. I also want to mention that you can kill the Geist, but that will not give you the option to get the key from the Magister that way. However, if you do kill the Geist, you get a pretty sweet, unique breastplate, which is nice at the very beginning of the game, but you will quickly outlevel that thing, so it's kind of up to you. Now, here we are. So all of our ways up to this point, besides brute forcing our way out or teleporting up to the ledge and sneaking out, all lead us down to the jails under Fort Joy. Now from here, there's essentially three options if you're in the jail. You can either go up the stairs here, which brings you into the actual fort proper, past all the locked gates and some of the guards, and you can sneak your way out from here, which the front door is actually very close. I'm going to show you that right over here. All you got to do is come out, sneak over to this wheel, drop the bridge, and walk right across. Alternatively, if you look across at this tower here, you can sneak down from a tower across where High Judge Ordinator is. That's actually a bit of a difficult fight, but you can do it, of course. But if you're playing a sneaky character, you can just sneak into the tower beside them and get out that way, and that'll lead you onto the beach outside of Fort Joy, and you'll have escaped. Alternatively, the much more difficult option, if you're choosing to sneak, is to sneak past the paladin and everything in the front courtyard and try to sneak out through the docks. Again, a very difficult way to go, but you can do that. I wouldn't recommend it if you're trying to sneak out, though. I'd take the front gate, which is easier, through the side door, or the tower on the side where High Judge Ordinator is, the Oravand, rather. Now from here, if we go back to the jails, we actually have two other options. If we come down here to the side, we can find a boat, a small child being harassed by Magisters with a boat. And if we kill the Magisters and save this kid, he'll offer to sail us out. Now, this is actually probably one of the easier ways to go. It involves a lot less fighting. If you kill these two Magisters and talk to this kid, he'll actually take you to the same place as sneaking out of the tower near Oravand would. So that's one way to get it as well. Now, next to the stairs here, if we walk over there, that's actually where you can get Withermore's soul jar found at. So if you feel like actually helping Withermore out and not just betraying him after he gave you the information, Withermore's soul jar is down this little path here. One more option we have is trying to leave through the sewers. Now, if you go to the side here, you can find a disturbing sight of a Magister basically torturing people. He's a bit of a sadist. You can tell from the dialogue options he's not there for wholesome reasons. But if you kill Niles here and all of these golems, which again is kind of a hard fight, especially if you're a little more unfamiliar with the game, but if you can win this, or if you can sneak down to the sewer grate itself, which is a little more difficult because there's a silent monk watching it over there. But essentially you're just trying to get to this sewer grate over here, and if you get out of that, it'll again dump you onto the beach where the boat takes you, or sneaking out of the tower actually dumps you out at. So, all of those options, very good. Now, again, these are just the routes out of Fort Joy. And with that, guys, that is all of the routes out of the actual prison of Fort Joy. So congratulations, you've escaped Fort Joy. You can officially get on with your life and try to figure out how to get out of this island. While you are out of the freezer, you are kind of directly into a frying pan, because while you've escaped Fort Joy, you've essentially put yourself into a very dangerous swamp with old magics and curses all over the place. But there you go, guys. That's all the ways out of Fort Joy. I hope you enjoyed it. Please tell me down below in the comments which route you prefer to take and how you choose to walk that path. If you feel I missed anything, by all means, tell me all about it down in the comments. That said, I appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching. Hope you subscribe and stick around. Have a good one.